My wife bought her boyfriend a matching gold watch using our anniversary fund. That's the headline, isn't it? The kind of thing you'd see on some trashy gossip site. Except this is my life, my actual messed up life. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, you know? Like, how did I even get here? One minute you're planning a surprise trip to Napa, saving up every spare dime. The next, you're staring at a receipt for a goddamn Cartier. A damn Cartier. That wasn't for me. And if you're finding yourself drawn into this kind of messy human drama, if you think real stories like this deserve to be heard, then do me a favor, would you? Hit that subscribe button. Give this a like. Share it with anyone who's ever felt like their world got flipped upside down. And definitely leave a comment below. Your thoughts, your experiences, anything. It helps more than you know. It's funny, the things that stick with you. The scent of her perfume, that specific vanilla and sandalwood mix she's worn since we first met, the way she used to hum off-key when she was happy, a little buzzy sound that always made me smile. The way her hand fit in mine, like it was made to be there. We met at this dive bar, of all places. I was just out with some buddies after a brutal week at work, nursing a lukewarm beer, and she walked in with a group of friends. She had this laugh, a bright, uninhibited sound that cut through the noise of the place. I remember thinking, who is that? I was instantly drawn to her energy, her vibrancy. We ended up talking for hours that night, leaning against the sticky bar, the music a low thrum in the background. It felt easy, effortless, like finding a missing piece I didn't even know I was looking for. We dated for a year, a whirlwind of late-night diners, spontaneous road trips, and falling head over heels. Then, boom, marriage. Seemed like the natural progression, right? The big white wedding, the happy vows, the whole 9 yards. We bought a house in the suburbs, the kind with the neat lawns and the porch swing, the quintessential American dream. 2 cars in the garage, a dog, the whole 9 yards. It was everything we talked about, everything we'd worked for. Or so I thought. The anniversary fund. That's where it all started to unravel in retrospect. 20 years of marriage, and I wanted to do something special. Not just another dinner out, not just a new watch or some generic gift. I wanted an experience. Napa. Always wanted to go to Napa. Wine tasting, rolling hills, that relaxed, romantic vibe. We talked about it years ago, and it had always lingered in the back of my mind. So I started a separate savings account, tucked away a little bit from each paycheck, no fanfare, no big announcements, just for her, for us, for that special trip. I'd look at the balance grow, picturing us strolling through vineyards, holding hands, sharing a bottle of something incredible. It was a symbol, you know?
Of our enduring love, our commitment, our future. A tangible representation of all the dreams we still had. I'd catch myself smiling at the thought, the quiet thrill of a shared secret, a future pleasure. She knew about the anniversary trip, of course, but not the specifics of the fund. I wanted it to be a surprise, the whole thing. Save up for something amazing, honey, I'd say. And she'd just smile and nod, totally unsuspecting. Or so I believed. The change was subtle at first. Little things. Her phone was suddenly always on silent, even when we were home. She'd become more secretive, locking her laptop when she went to bed, which was never her style. We used to share everything. Our passwords were the same, our lives intertwined like ivy. Now, it felt like there were invisible walls creeping up. She started staying out later, girls' nights that stretched into the early hours, always with a vague explanation about how long they talked. I'd lie awake, listening for her car, the familiar creak of the garage door, and then the click of our bedroom door. Sometimes she'd come home smelling faintly of something that wasn't her usual perfume, a different cologne, a bit musky, a bit strong. I'd brush it off, tell myself I was being paranoid, that 20 years of marriage could breed a little distance, a little independence. People change, relationships evolve. That's what you tell yourself when you don't want to see the cracks forming. Then there was the money. The anniversary fund. I checked it last week, just a routine look. It was significantly lower than it should have been. Not a huge amount, not enough to scream fraud, but enough to make my stomach clench. I figured maybe I'd miscalculated, or maybe she'd taken some out for groceries or for a present for her sister. I didn't want to think the worst. I'm not an inherently suspicious guy. I believe in trust, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's how you build a life, right? On a foundation of faith. But that discrepancy gnawed at me. It was a little seed of doubt planted in fertile ground. I asked her about it, casually. "Hey honey, I was looking at the savings account the other day. Noticed it was a bit lower than I remembered. Did you need to dip into it for anything?" She waved it away, a quick, dismissive gesture. "Oh, that? Just some unexpected expenses. Nothing to worry about, love." Her tone was a little too light, a little too quick. The way she avoided my eyes. Those were the new tells. The real got punched, though. It came from an unlikely source. My buddy, Dave. Dave's a decent guy, a little rough around the edges, but solid. We were at a bar, celebrating his promotion, a few beers deep. He was telling me some story about his ex, and he goes, "Speaking of bad decisions, man, I saw something weird the other day, like really weird." He kind of paused, looking around like he wasn't sure if he should say it. I nudged him. "What's up, man? Spill it." He lowered his voice. "Okay, so I was at that fancy jewelry store downtown, you know, the one on Elm, buying a necklace for my mom's birthday, and I saw your wife there. My heart did a weird little lurch." "Oh yeah?" She was shopping. I tried to sound casual, my voice betraying me with a slight tremor. "Yeah, but it wasn't just her. She was with this guy. And get this, they were looking at watches, like really expensive watches. He saw the look on my face. And they were all over each other, man, like hands on each other, whispering, definitely not just friends." He described the guy, a tall, dark-haired dude, a bit older than me, with this confident swagger. And then he said it, the thing that made the blood drain from my face. And get this, man, they were looking at this gold watch. It was a really distinctive one. I remember seeing it in a magazine. And your wife, she was pointing at it, and the guy was smiling, and they were both wearing matching ones, like exactly the same. Gold. Real classy, I guess, but yeah, it struck me as odd, seeing you guys always so solid, you know? Matching gold watches. Our anniversary fund. It clicked into place with a sickening finality, a jigsaw puzzle that had been slowly assembling itself in the dark. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the faint scent of foreign cologne, the missing money. It wasn't just paranoia, it was real. She was buying her boyfriend a matching gold watch, using our anniversary fund. The fund I'd painstakingly built, brick by emotional brick, to celebrate our love, our journey. The betrayal was a physical blow. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving me gasping. I stood there, the noise of the bar fading into a dull roar in my ears, Dave's words echoing like hammer blows. Matching gold watches. It was so specific, so blatant, so utterly cruel. It wasn't just infidelity, it was a deliberate, calculated insult, a statement. She was flaunting it, using our shared future to build her secret one. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, the beer suddenly tasting like bile. Dave was still talking, but I barely heard him. My mind was racing, a chaotic storm of anger, hurt, and disbelief. How could she, after everything, after 20 years? I felt like a fool, a blind, unsuspecting fool. I mumbled some excuse to Dave, something about needing some air, and stumbled out of the bar, the night air doing nothing to cool the fire raging inside me. I drove home on autopilot, my hands clenched so tight on the steering wheel my knuckles were white. Every street lamp, every familiar house, every mile marker felt like an accusation. This was the life we'd built. This was our home, and she was shattering it, piece by agonizing piece. I pulled into the driveway, the house dark except for the faint glow from the living room. I sat in the car for a long time, just breathing, trying to force some semblance of calm over the tempest within.
The keys felt heavy in my hand. What was I going to say? What could I even say? The image of her laughing with another man, pointing at that watch, was seared into my brain. It was the kind of image that could poison everything. I finally got out of the car, my legs feeling like lead. The front door creaked open as I pushed it, the sound unnaturally loud in the silence. The living room light was on,
a single lamp casting long shadows. And there she was, sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a faint smile playing on her lips. She looked up as I entered, that smile faltering for a split second before being replaced by a look of feigned pleasant surprise. "Hey, honey, you're back late. Everything okay?" The casualness of it, the sheer audacity, was almost too much to bear. I stood in the doorway, the words catching in my throat, a raw, ragged sound. My world had just imploded, and she was asking if everything was okay. The matching gold watches, our anniversary fund, it was all there, hanging in the air between us, an unspoken, undeniable truth. I finally managed to choke out a single word, a whisper that held the weight of 1,000 unspoken accusations. Napa. That was all I could manage, just that one word. And then I watched her face. I watched the color drain from it, the mask of normalcy cracking and then shattering, revealing the terrified guilt beneath. The smile was gone, replaced by a pallor that spread across her face like a disease. She stammered, her voice a reedy whisper. "Napa? What about Napa?" Her hands, which had been resting casually on her lap, now twisted the fabric of her sweatpants. It wasn't the question that hurt, it was the performance, the forced confusion, the blatant attempt to feign ignorance, as if I hadn't just laid bare the most damning piece of evidence I possessed. The silence stretched, taut and unbearable. I could feel the air crackling, charged with all the things we were both thinking, but neither of us dared to say out loud. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, a constant companion in our quiet suburban life, suddenly sounded like a ticking bomb. I took a step further into the room, my shadow engulfing the patch of lamplight she was sitting in. My voice, when it finally came, was low, gravelly, stripped of any warmth. "The fund, Sarah, the anniversary fund, 20 years, and you took it." You took it, and you bought him a matching watch. A gold watch. Just like the one he wears. Her breath hitched. A sharp, ragged sound. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding mine, as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. She opened her mouth, closed it again. A weak, pathetic attempt at a laugh escaped her lips. "Honey, you're not making any sense. What are you talking about?" The denial, it was so predictable, so utterly soul-crushing. It was like watching someone drown and then deny they were even wet. I shook my head, a slow, deliberate motion. Don't play dumb with me, Sarah. Dave saw you. Dave saw you at the jewelry store, picking out watches with him, and he saw you wearing the matching one, the one that cost more than we've saved for 10 years, the one that came out of our Napa fund. The color had completely drained from her face now. Her lips, usually so full and vibrant, were now a pale, bloodless line. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her hands trembled visibly as she finally met my gaze, and in her eyes, I saw a desperate plea, a silent confession. It's not what you think." Her voice was barely audible, a fragile thread about to snap. "Oh, really?" My voice was laced with a bitterness I hadn't known I possessed. "Then what is it, Sarah? Enlighten me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like my wife, the woman I've built my entire life with, has been systematically lying to me, stealing from our future, and sleeping with another man. And not just any man, but some guy she's buying matching jewelry with. Is that not what I think?" I felt a tremor run through my body, a seismic shift in the foundations of my reality. The anger was a hot, consuming fire, but beneath it, a cold dread was starting to seep in. The shock was starting to wear off, leaving behind the raw, gaping wound of betrayal. She finally found her voice, though it was still shaky. He's a friend, just a friend. I was helping him pick out a gift for his mother." I let out a harsh laugh, a sound devoid of any humor. "A friend? A friend you're meeting in secret, touching intimately, and buying matching gold watches with?
That's some friend, Sarah. And his mother must be incredibly appreciative of the fact that my wife is draining our anniversary savings to buy her son a piece of jewelry that's practically identical to the one he already owns, which you apparently also paid for. The sarcasm dripped from every word, each syllable a tiny shard of glass I was throwing at her. Tears began to well up in her eyes, blurring her vision. She looked like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar, caught red-handed, but still clinging to a flimsy, unbelievable excuse. It's complicated, Mark. You wouldn't understand. Complicated? My voice rose, the carefully constructed calm I'd been trying to maintain shattering. What's complicated about you betraying me?
What's complicated about you lying to me for months? What's complicated about you destroying everything we've built? I walked over to the bookshelf, and my hand instinctively reached for a framed photo of us on our wedding day. Her beaming smile, my hopeful gaze. 20 years. It felt like a lifetime ago, and yet, it felt like it was yesterday. Do you remember this, Sarah? Do you remember what we promised each other? For richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Was that all just words? Pretty little platitudes to go with the white dress and the fancy cake? She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. It wasn't the reaction I expected. Not entirely. Part of me wanted her to fight, to lash out, to deny it all with every fiber of her being. But this brokenness, it was almost worse. It confirmed everything. It confirmed my worst fears. It started a few months ago, she finally whispered, her voice muffled by her hands. I was feeling so alone, Mark. You were always working, always stressed, and he made me feel seen. He listened, and then it just happened. It was a mistake. A mistake. The word hung in the air, hollow and meaningless. A mistake that involved elaborate lies, stolen money, and a clandestine affair. A mistake that had systematically chipped away at the foundation of our marriage, leaving it vulnerable and exposed. A mistake? I repeated, the incredulity evident in my tone. A mistake that you've been actively cultivating for months? A mistake that you're spending our anniversary money on? A mistake that involves another man's penis in your vagina? The words were brutal, cruel, but they felt necessary. I needed to shatter the illusion, to strip away the pretense. She flinched, her sobs intensifying. Please, Mark, don't say that. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Sorry? I scoffed. Sorry doesn't fix this, Sarah. Sorry doesn't give us back the 20 years you've been poisoning. Sorry doesn't explain the receipt for the Cartier watch that wasn't for me. I walked over to the kitchen counter and pulled out the crumpled receipt from my pocket. It was still there, a stark, undeniable piece of evidence. I tossed it onto the coffee table, right in front of her. It landed with a soft, almost apologetic rustle. This is from last week, Sarah. That's when Dave saw you. That's when you bought him the watch, using the money I've been saving for us, for our future, for a trip we've dreamed about for years. She stared at the receipt, her eyes scanning the damning details. The date, the item, the exorbitant price. The truth, undeniable and unforgiving, was laid bare. She finally looked up at me, her face a mask of abject misery. I was going to tell you, she choked out, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know how. You didn't know how? I was on the verge of shouting. You could have just told me, Sarah. You could have just been honest. But no, that's not your style, is it? Your style is secrets, lies, and discreet meetings in expensive jewelry stores. Your style is betrayal. I paced the length of the living room, the familiar space now feeling alien and suffocating. Every object, every photograph, every memory was tainted. The couch where we'd curled up watching movies, the dining table where we'd shared countless meals, the fireplace where we'd roasted marshmallows on our first anniversary.
All of it was now a monument to our shattered life. He said he loved me, Mark. The words were barely a whisper, a confession torn from her lips. That was it. The final nail in the coffin, the confirmation that this wasn't just a physical affair, but an emotional one too. He said he loved her, and she believed him. He said he loved you, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. And what about me, Sarah? Did you love me when you were saving up for his watch? Did you love me when you were lying in our bed, dreaming of him? Did you love me when you were planning our future, knowing you were already living a separate one with someone else? She sobbed harder, her body racked with guilt and shame. I do love you, Mark. I love you more than anything. This was a terrible mistake. I was lost. I was lonely. Lonely? I stopped pacing, standing over her. My voice was dangerously quiet now, a predator cornered and ready to strike. You want to talk about lonely? I'm lonely, Sarah. I'm lonely in my own home. I'm lonely in my own marriage. I'm lonely with the woman I thought I knew better than myself. And you know what else? You made me feel stupid. You made me feel like a damn fool. Every time you smiled at me, every time you said I love you, it was all a lie, a performance. And I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. I ran a hand through my hair, the frustration and pain building to an almost unbearable crescendo. I felt like I was going to explode. So, what now, Sarah? What's the plan? Do you just walk away? Do you move in with this guy who loves you so much he needs matching watches? Or do you expect me to just forgive you, to pretend this never happened? She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed, and pleaded, I don't know. I don't want to lose you, Mark. You already have, Sarah. I said the words colder than I intended. You lost me the moment you bought that watch. You lost me the moment you chose him over me. You lost me the moment you decided our 20 years together weren't worth the truth. I turned away from her. The sight of her pain and her pathetic pleas was almost more than I could bear. I walked towards the front door, needing air, needing space, needing to escape the suffocating reality of our living room. Mark, wait, she cried out, her voice cracking. Please don't go. We need to talk about this. There's nothing left to talk about, Sarah, I said, my hand on the doorknob. You've said it all. The watch, the money, he loves me, it's all there. It's all out in the open, and I can't unsee it. I can't unhear it. They opened the door, the cool night air hitting my face like a balm. Where are you going? She asked, her voice laced with panic. I paused, my back to her. I didn't have an answer. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay here. Not tonight. Not with the ghost of her betrayal hanging over me. I don't know, I said, my voice rough. But I can't be here. Not right now. And then I stepped out into the darkness, leaving her alone in the lamplight, surrounded by the wreckage of our marriage. The click of the door closing behind me echoed like a gunshot in the silent night. I got into my car, the familiar leather of the driver's seat feeling alien beneath my trembling hands. The engine roared to life, a primal sound of my own inner turmoil. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced back at the house. The lights were still on, and in the living room window, I saw her silhouette, a solitary figure against the glass, watching me go. A wave of pure, unadulterated rage washed over me, followed by an all-consuming despair. I drove, the streets blurring past, the city lights a dizzying kaleidoscope. My mind replayed the conversation, every word a fresh stab wound. The anniversary fund, the matching gold watches, the confession. It all played on an endless loop, a tormenting carousel of pain. I found myself heading towards the downtown area, towards the glitz and the neon, towards a place where I could drown my sorrows, or at least try to. A bar, a dark, smoky bar where no one knew my name, a place where I could disappear for a while. I parked the car and walked, my steps heavy, my gaze fixed on the ground. As I approached the entrance of a neon-drenched establishment, a chilling familiarity washed over me. This was it. This was the bar Dave had mentioned,
The place where he'd seen her. My stomach churned. Was he here? Was he here? The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. I pushed open the heavy door, the blast of loud music and the smell of stale beer hitting me like a physical force. The place was packed, the air thick with a smoky haze and the murmur of countless conversations. I scanned the room, my eyes darting from face to face, a desperate, irrational search. And then I saw him, sitting at the bar, laughing with a group of men, his dark hair glinting under the dim lights. He was tall, confident, the same description Dave had given me. And he was wearing a gold watch, a matching gold watch. My breath hitched. I stood frozen, a statue in the middle of the crowded bar. This was him. This was the man who had stolen my wife, my money, my peace of mind. A primal urge, a raw, instinctual fury surged through me. My fists clenched, my jaw tightened. I wanted to scream, to rage, to shatter everything in this room. But a cold calculation settled in. I couldn't just charge in. I needed to be smart.
I needed to be careful, and I needed to know more. I slipped further into the shadows, my eyes locked on his. He turned, his gaze sweeping across the room, and for a terrifying second, our eyes met. His smile faltered, a flicker of recognition, or perhaps unease, crossing his face. He didn't know me, not really, but he knew Sarah. He knew what he had done. And in that moment, I knew I had to act. I had to understand the full extent of her deception. I had to know who this man was and what he meant to her. The anger was a roaring inferno, but the need for answers, for proof, for vengeance was even stronger. I couldn't let this go. Not now. Not ever. I had to uncover the entire truth, no matter how ugly it was. And it was going to be ugly. I could feel it in my bones. This was just the beginning. The real story, the one with all the sordid details, was still waiting to be told. And I was going to be the one to tell it. The cold dread hadn't subsided since I left the house. It was a constant, gnawing presence, a physical weight in my chest that made it hard to breathe. Driving aimlessly, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon agony, I'd felt an almost perverse pull towards this place, Dave's suggestion, the scene of the crime in a way. Now seeing him, the man who had been Sarah's secret, the man wearing the tangible proof of her betrayal, a chilling calm descended. The rage was still there, a furnace stoked to an inferno, but it was tempered by a cold, hard clarity. I wasn't going to explode. Not yet. I was going to dissect this, piece by piece. I ordered a whiskey, neat. The burn was a welcome distraction, a sharp counterpoint to the dull ache in my gut. I watched him, this stranger who had infiltrated the most sacred space of my life. He was talking, laughing, oblivious to the storm brewing just feet away, oblivious to the fact that his shiny new watch, purchased with funds meant for our future, was a siren song of everything that had been stolen from me. Dave, bless his oblivious heart, had seen them together, buying watches. He described the other guy, the man with the easy smile and the confident swagger, the man who made Sarah feel seen. And there he was, looking exactly like Dave's description. The watch. God, the watch. It was too much, too real, too visible. I felt a strange detachment, like I was watching a movie unfold, but I was trapped inside the screen. This couldn't be my life. This beautiful suburban house, 20 years of shared dreams, the anniversary fund, Napa, all of it reduced to a cheap imitation of love bought with stolen money and whispered promises. I took another sip of whiskey, the amber liquid doing little to numb the raw, exposed nerves. I needed more than just seeing him. I needed to hear it, from her, or from him. The thought sent a jolt through me. Confronting him here? No, that was too messy, too predictable. Sarah's lies were more insidious than a simple affair.
They were a carefully constructed facade, a house of cards built on sand, and I needed to see how deep the rot went. I paid for my drink and walked out, the music fading behind me. The night air was crisp, a stark contrast to the stifling heat of the bar. I got back into my car, the familiar leather of the driver's seat a cold comfort. I knew where I had to go. Back to the house. Back to the scene of the wreckage.
I couldn't unsee his face, the casual confidence of the man who had unknowingly become the villain in my life. But I also couldn't let Sarah off the hook. Not yet. She was the architect of this disaster, the one who had allowed it to fester and grow. The drive back felt longer, each mile a heavy step closer to an inevitable reckoning. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, a stark contrast to the harsh lights of the bar. Sarah would be here, waiting. Or maybe she'd be with him. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. I parked the car, the engine ticking in the sudden silence. I stood for a moment, staring at the darkened windows, at the house that was no longer a sanctuary, but a monument to betrayal. I unlocked the front door, the click echoing in the stillness. The house was cold, an emptiness that seeped into my bones. I walked into the living room, the same room where I'd confronted her hours earlier. The receipt was still on the coffee table, a stark reminder of the damning evidence. And there she was, curled up on the sofa, a faint outline in the dim moonlight filtering through the windows. She looked smaller, fragile, her body a question mark in the darkness. She stirred as I entered, a soft gasp escaping her lips. "Mark?" Her voice was a whisper, fragile and uncertain. I didn't answer, just stood there, watching her. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken words, with years of accumulated lies. I could see her eyes, wide and glistening in the gloom, searching for something, anything in my expression. Where were you?" she finally managed, her voice trembling. I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the receipt. I held it out to her. "I was at the Gilded Cage," I said, my voice low and steady. "Dave told me about it, about you, about him." Her breath hitched. She didn't take the receipt, just stared at it, her face a pale mask in the darkness. "Mark, I interrupted, my voice rising slightly, the cold calm starting to fray. "Don't Mark eye me. Just tell me everything. And this time, Sarah, no more lies, no more mistakes, just the truth, every ugly, sordid detail." She finally lowered her gaze, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Tears began to stream down her face, silent rivulets in the dim light. He's Michael," she whispered, her voice cracking. "His name is Michael." Michael. The name hung in the air, a phantom presence in the room. "Michael," I repeated, the name tasting like poison. "And how long has Michael been making you feel seen, Sarah?" How long has he been buying you matching watches with money that wasn't his to spend? She buried her face in her hands, her sobs shaking her small frame. It started about 6 months ago. We met at a conference. He was charming. He listened. He made me feel beautiful, alive again. You were always working, always stressed. And I felt invisible. 6 months. 6 months of deception. 6 months of stolen nights, stolen money, stolen life. The rage simmered, threatening to boil over. Invisible? I spat the word out. You felt invisible? So you found solace in another man's arms? You found solace in emptying our anniversary fund? You found solace in lying to me every single day? She lifted her head, her eyes red-rimmed and pleading. It wasn't like that, Mark. It just happened. And then I couldn't stop. He said he loved me. He said I was the one. The one. The word struck me like a physical blow. The one. After 20 years, I was reduced to a placeholder, a convenient arrangement until something better, someone better came along. He said he loved you. I repeated, the bitterness in my voice a palpable thing. And you believed him. You believed him over me, over our life, over everything we built.
I was lost, Mark, she pleaded, her voice hoarse. I was so confused. And he offered me an escape, a fantasy, and I fell for it. A fantasy that cost thousands of dollars, I countered, my voice laced with a sarcasm that cut deep. A fantasy that requires you to steal from your own marriage. A fantasy that involves buying matching gold watches. Tell me, Sarah, does Michael wear a gold watch too? Does he have one as ostentatious as the one you picked out for him? She flinched. Yes, she whispered. He does. We bought them together. The confirmation, the blunt, undeniable confirmation of her complicity, her active participation in this charade. The man in the bar, the same watch, it all clicked into place with sickening precision. He wasn't just a casual fling. He was a partner in crime, and she had willingly handed him the keys to our shared future. So, you're telling me, I said, my voice dangerously low, that for the last 6 months, you've been living a double life. You've been sleeping with another man, lying to my face and stealing our money, all while planning to present me with a perfectly crafted illusion of our life together. And all because you felt invisible? Is that it, Sarah? Is that your grand justification for destroying everything? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, Mark, it's not justification. It's the truth. I was selfish. I was weak. And I'm so sorry. Sorry. The word was a choked sound, devoid of any emotion. Sorry doesn't bring back the money, Sarah. Sorry doesn't unbetray me. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you looked me in the eye day after day and lied. Every I love you, every kiss, every shared meal. It was all a lie, wasn't it?
You were just waiting for your escape, waiting for Michael to sweep you off your feet and into his perfectly accessorized life. I walked over to the window and looked out at the dark, silent street. The suburban facade was crumbling around me, revealing the rot beneath. The perfect lawns, the manicured hedges, the quiet streets, all of it was a carefully constructed lie, just like our marriage had become. You know, I said, my voice quiet, reflective. I used to think love was about commitment, about building something together, about weathering storms. I thought we had that. I thought 20 years meant something. Apparently, I was wrong. 20 years, Sarah, and you traded it all in for a man who makes you feel seen and a matching set of expensive watches. She didn't respond. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her ragged breaths. I turned back to face her, my heart a leaden weight in my chest. The anger was still there, a roaring inferno, but it was starting to be overshadowed by a profound, soul-deep weariness. What do you want me to do, Sarah? I asked, my voice devoid of hope. Do you want me to forgive you? Do you want me to forget that you systematically dismantled our life, piece by piece? Do you expect me to just sweep it all under the rug and pretend that the last 6 months never happened? She looked up at me, her eyes wide and vulnerable. I don't know, she whispered. I don't want this to be the end. I don't want to lose you. You already have, Sarah, I said, the words as cold and sharp as ice. You lost me the moment you decided that Michael's attention was worth more than my trust. You lost me the moment you chose a fantasy over our reality. You lost me the moment you realized you were willing to steal from our future to live in his present. I walked towards the door, the ache in my chest spreading, a physical manifestation of my shattered heart. Mark, please, she cried out, her voice breaking. Don't go. We can fix this. We can... Fix this? I scoffed, the sound a hollow echo in the cavernous room. How do you fix this, Sarah? How do you unlie? How do you unbetray? How do you unsteal? I paused at the doorway, my hand on the cool metal of the knob. There's nothing left to fix, Sarah.
You already broke it. All of it. I opened the door and stepped out into the night, leaving her alone in the wreckage of our lives. The cool air hit my face, a harsh reminder of the world outside the suffocating confines of our home. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. Not anymore. The click of the door closing behind me felt like a final punctuation mark, the end of a chapter I never wanted to write. I got into my car, the engine a low rumble against the silent night. As I pulled away, I glanced back at the house, a dark silhouette against the indifferent stars. The lights were still on in the living room, casting a faint glow through the windows.
And for a fleeting moment, I imagined her there, alone, staring at the empty space where I had stood, realizing the true cost of her choices. The drive was a blur. My mind raced, replaying the conversation, each word a fresh stab wound. Michael, the watch, the lies, the sheer, unadulterated betrayal. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to feel. I just wanted to escape. I drove until the familiar streets of the suburbs gave way to the endless ribbon of highway, the city lights a distant shimmer on the horizon. I pulled over to the side of the road, the desolate landscape a fitting backdrop for my own emptiness. The silence here was different, vast and indifferent, a stark contrast to the suffocating quiet of the house. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel, the cool plastic a small comfort. 20 years, gone. Reduced to ashes and dust by a moment of weakness, a search for validation, and a man with a shiny gold watch. The guilt was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. Guilt for not seeing it sooner. Guilt for being so oblivious. Guilt for being the one left behind. But beneath the guilt, a flicker of something else. Resilience. Survival. The sun was beginning to paint the sky with soft hues of orange and pink when I finally started the car again. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have answers. But I had the truth. Ugly and devastating, but the truth nonetheless. And I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let this define me. It was going to hurt. It was going to scar. But I was going to get through it. One breath at a time. 1 mile at a time. The road ahead was uncertain, the path shrouded in darkness, but for the first time since I'd walked into that living room, I felt a faint, fragile stirring of hope. The journey was just beginning.